everyone. Thanks for joining us today for this live panel Q&A session with two of our GeoSoftware Reservoir experts. So we're going to get started. But before we get started, I'm going to give you a little bit about GeoSoftware. We are a market-leading subsurface geoscience technology provider delivering innovative subsurface characterization and visualization software and services to the global energy industry. And then the two software suites that we are going to talk about today are Hampson Russell and Jason. So our two panelists for today's panel session will be Beth Reese, Head of Product Management, and Ruth Kurian, Product Manager for Hampson Russell. Both of these ladies have decades of experience and will provide us with a lot of really great insight today. It's exciting. So without further ado, we're going to get started on this Q&A panel session. So to give you some time to submit some questions and just to get the conversation started off, GeoSoftware recently had our 2024.1 release. And so why don't each of you start off by beginning to tell us about the highlights of this most recent release. So why don't we first turn it over to you, Ruth, to touch on Hampson Russell 2024.1.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you, Monica. So our newest release, Hampson Russell 2024.1, concentrated on reducing risk, enhancing results, and improving performance. So as far as reducing risk, we've we've provided more interpretable outcomes to improve predictions, mitigate risks, and improve decisions. One example of that is in Emerge. We've added this trace mix algorithm, which improves the interpretation to appear more geologic so that it's consistent without the vertical smearing apparent in windowed attributes previously. As far as enhanced QI, we're generating attributes conformable with horizons for easier interpretation that's consistent with stratigraphy. And the benefit of that is that mapping conformable with horizons through a volume enables easier interpretation, which is consistent, again, with the stratigraphy. We've also done some work with depth trend assessments. So those enable you to explore the impact of depth trends to discern subsurface geology and fluid dynamics. The benefit there is that fitting the regression line, normally with depth versus amplitude in the log plot there, enables you to grasp the depth trends and to understand better subsurface geology and fluid dynamics. We've made some improvements here as far as efficiency and scalability. So our wells database has performance improvements of 2 to 3 times faster for databases containing up to 10,000 wells. We can see here in turquoise is the current performance of 2024.1, so it's much faster as compared to the yellow of 13.2 and earlier. We've tested databases up to 10,000 wells. Also, we've added some increased efficiency with our chain processing. So chain processing allows you to streamline your workflow and reduce time required for parameterization. The benefit there is that the chain speeds up results and enables saving predefined chains, linking the individual processes in order to store the interim results in memory, and little effects, like for changing parameterization, can be flow through all the way to the end of the chain to see the effects of those changes. Additionally, to support that, we've added interactive QCs. And so these enable you to refine data conditioning analysis with more interactive controls for immediate feedback. And so here we're seeing some amplitude frequency results. And we've also enabled QCs on slices so that you can do extractions on those slices as well. And this is recent to this release. We've also improved usability. So we've streamlined integration with the Petrel plugin. So most recently, we've enabled a live link. And this eliminates the need to store multiple seismic data sets. So there's a reduction in storage space and also ensuring more efficient data management. So we still have the functionality that you can download and save a copy of a data set coming out of Petrel, thereby allowing you to close Petrel and release the license. But we also have this live link option, which speeds up the input-output of data and enables you to do all of your favorite workflows like well ties and inversion and AVO. We've also made our workflows more intuitive, so they enable you to navigate the interface more easily, reducing the time to required to enter rock physics parameters and improve overall use. So in Rock SI, our users, there was often a ramp up in order to become super users of Rock SI, so our rock physics modeling tool. We're making it easier, quicker to parameterize and learn to use this tool. Another instance of our ease of access that we're endeavoring to improve is the steps required to create these gather stacks. So these gather stacks are an important QC that are for many of our pre-stack workflows, including AVO, pre-stack inversion, azimuthal analysis, as well as 4D analysis. And again, now I can turn it over to Beth for Jason. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so much, Ruth. All right, Beth, we'll turn it over to you to talk about the highlights in JSON 2024.1.
There were 3 slides that go with the themes of our, well, actually it's for our entire 2024 release series. We have 3 themes of new features, usability, and performance. So we'll start with some new features. Now, these features are all meant to help you improve the turnaround time of your workflow. So we looked at things that we thought would be extra time sinks and things of the workflow that can be things that take a lot of time. So the first one that we looked at and have improved is the run.map and xy.map. Longtime users of JSON will know that the run.map and the xy.map are what control the surveys and the coordinates. And particularly when loading new seismic volumes, it's if you choose the wrong column or something from your seg.y file, it's easy to create an additional survey or mess up your coordinates for your existing surveys. And then you were needed to go back to the backups of these files and bring them forward again and replace them so that you would have the correct coordinates. We've now introduced a tool that allows you to look at the run.map and the xy.map. In other words, look at the survey and the coordinates for them and see what that'll look like on the map, as you see in the picture here. And so you can choose through the various backups that you have and decide which one is the correct one and then choose that. You don't have to be manually renaming files and moving them around and testing that kind of blindly the way you did before. The second step that we have is allowing you to select a session as you're starting it up. The applications in JSON, some of them when you open them up, they open up to a blank session. Some of them when you open them up, they open up to the last session that you were working on. And what's happened over and over again, what we see and what we hear from people is that it often doesn't have what you want. You will want to have a blank session or you'll want to have a different session. So the feature that we've implemented allows you to use the right mouse button to choose between having a new session started or one of your most recent sessions, or you can just open the open session dialog. The goal here is that you get the view that you want faster and with less mouse clicks. Another new feature that we've added is for the display of the statistical ranges in the multi-well viewer in the StatMod and RockMod QCs. So in StatMod and RockMod, you create a lot of realizations and then you want to look at the pseudolog extractions at the well location for each of these realizations. And before, we had just a well viewer that would show the different realization extractions next to each other. Now what we've introduced is the ability to choose through a little set of icons, as you see on the right there. You can choose if you want to show the min-max of all of the realizations, or plus or minus 1 standard deviation. So that when you're looking at the realizations, if you've already run rock rank and have a couple of realizations that you're leaning towards, and you want to see how they compare within the entire range of the results, you can see that using this min-max that shows the entire range down, and the standard realizations plus minus of the realization that you're looking at. Moving on to performance, we are in the process of doing a major overhaul of our MCPU infrastructure. And with this, the goal is to allow the MCPU jobs to interact more effectively with external schedulers, things like USF, LSF, UGE, Slurm, some of the external schedulers that we support. Beforehand, the communication with that was rather fragile, and not always, there was a time lag in some of the communication. So the reporting back on job status and resources was not always as reliable as we would have liked to it have been. So we've improved the infrastructure. And so this allows that we can, that the schedulers, we know better interaction with the schedulers allows it to better manage the things like the memory, the availability of machines, and the progress of jobs. And as a bonus, not only when you're working with external schedulers, but we've improved the reliability of this information just when you're using the what we call the internal scheduler, the self-contained scheduler, so that you get more reliable results. A second side benefit that everyone will be seeing, whether or not they are using external schedulers, is an improvement in the dialogue when you're selecting the hosts for running your MCPU job. Before, sometimes it took a little while to communicate with the other machines, the other hosts, and it would be a bit of a time lag between the time that you asked to see the dialogue of available machines and the available machines would show up. So this improvement for the MCPU infrastructure has also improved the communication so that that list comes back quicker than it did before. Another improvement that we've made is in the performance of what we call the fast kriging during the interpolation of property values in the Earth model module. So even though it was called fast kriging, sometimes it wouldn't take days or months or years or anything like that, but some of the runs would take for medium and larger jobs would take, you know, hours to half a day. And with the improvements we've made, then this has improved. Some of our jobs that we tested went from hours down to minutes. We particularly saw with this improvement an increase for things that are stored, projects that are stored on a network drive. And there in one of the projects, we even got a speed up of almost tenfold for what it was performing before we made the improvement and afterwards. So whether or not you're using MCPU or just interpolating wells for your low frequency model, the performance improvements that we've made should benefit you in 2024.1. And finally, a little bit on some of the usability improvements we've made. So the theme on all of these is that we wanted to provide the user more information when they were looking at something and needed to make a decision based on it. So, for example, in the Tracegate viewer, when you were looking at a multi-segment trace gate, you could see where the overall trace gate was on the map, but you had no indication which of the segments corresponded to which little line segment on the map. So now when you select a trace gate segment, it will bold that segment on the map so that you know if you are in particular interest of choosing a segment that goes over a well, or you want to adjust one of the segments, you get immediate feedback and visual feedback as to which of the segments that you're highlighting and which of the segments you can then change. Another improvement was in putting the origin of pseudologs in the plot list. So when you do an extraction, it comes from a mod file. That's what a pseudolog extraction is. And previously in the plot list, it did not show where that pseudolog was extracted from. So if you had a series of them, if you wanted to, say, replace one of them or make one of them a particular color, it was a bit of a game to choose through the different ones and try and figure out which one came from which of the mod files. And so now, whichever mod file that the pseudolog has been extracted from, that's labeled in the plot list. A third enhancement that we've made is with the project session selection. So these are the project sessions that apply to the overall setup of the workbench. When you're opening your project for the day or closing down your project at the end of your day, you can save a project session that is a composite of all of the individual sessions that you have. And in the project session selection, you now can see when that project session was created or last modified. So if you know that you want a session from last week, but you don't remember exactly what you named it, you can see based on this date and time stamp as to which session was from last week. So that's a little bit on the themes of usability, performance improvements, and new features to enhance and speed up your workflows that we've put in 2024.1. And we really believe that all of our users will be getting benefits from some, if not all, of these features.
Great, thanks so much, Beth and Ruth, both of you, for providing your insight. And if you are on M&S and you haven't upgraded to the latest 2024.1, make sure to reach out to your business manager and in your region, and they'll make sure to upgrade you and give you a full rollout presentation to show you everything that went into the release, because it was quite a bit there. So with that, we're going to move on to the questions, the live Q&A panel. And with that, I'm going to start. There's one here for you, Ruth, on Hampson Russell. And that is, what is the high-level benefit for interactive real-time quality control?
So I think the user is referring to our newest additions to the chain processing tool. And so the benefit there would be you can add a number of different steps. Say if you were conducting a gather conditioning workflow, like say you do a mute and then you do a trim statics, and you'd like to test, like, well, if I change my mute a little bit, what result is that going to have on my intercept and gradient volume, or what effect would that even have? I can bring it all the way through to inversion. And so the benefit there is that I can see the outcome of small steps in prior steps to an entire workflow, and see that real time stored in memory without actually having to create all of these larger volumes, perfect my parameters, and then run the entire chain and produce the results.
Great, thanks, Ruth. There's one here for you, Beth, on JSON, and they noticed that your new features seem to center on making things easier. So they're wondering if that is a coincidence or is that by design?
So yeah, I actually mentioned that when I was going through, excuse my cat here that is trying to join Adorable. The webinar. So the new features, yes, you're right, they center around this. In 2022, we did a customer survey, and obviously we're frequently talking to our customers just in general interactions with them. And one of the things they've said is that you have a lot of great algorithms. We love your technology. We would run more projects, except sometimes it can be a very long turnaround times, and we don't necessarily have the time to run the project. And so we decided that for the 2024 series of releases, instead of our new features focusing on algorithms or adding features that allowed you to operate in different environments or to take different data types into account, we decided that we would focus on trying to improve the turnaround time. So this goes nicely with the fact that we're trying to improve performance. Although performance with the MCPU capability, your actual calculation time, there's let's say a solution for that, or a way to mitigate how long the actual run times take. The workflow time, that was something that we needed to programmatically address. And so, like I said, we've chosen that as the theme for our new features, what we can do to reduce the turnaround time of a project.
Okay, great. Thank you. So, Ruth, I have one for you here next, and that is, what is the primary benefit and outcomes associated with emerged trace mix for enhancing interpretation?
Sure. So as I mentioned, with our new trace mix algorithm, you're able to mitigate effects of, say, the algorithm through stepwise regression were to choose one of the windowed attributes as one of the first attributes in your regression. It oftentimes leaves a signature which is undesirable. It may fit at the well, but away from the well, it doesn't look geological. And we found that through employing this trace mix sort of smoothing algorithm to both the model portion and the application portion, so in choosing the attributes and also in running the model, that you achieve much more geologic consistent, more easily interpretable results. So I think a lot of our emerge users would have run into that sort of hiccup that would have required more more thought into choosing the attributes. And so this really enables more of a novice user to get great results the first time they run emerge.
Oh, that's great. So the next question really could go to either one of you, but I think that it is referring to your slide, Beth, and it says, your slide on the performance enhancements in JSON mentioned the faster kriging in Earth model. Is that improvement only available in JSON, or is it also available in the Hampson-Russell version of Earth model?
It's available in both. So yeah, I put the slide in here because it was some testing that we had done. The Earth model that was in JSON for several years already, that was introduced last year to the Hampson-Russell brand of software. And the functionality, we try and keep that in sync as much as possible. And so, yes, when we made that improvement, it's also available in the Hampson-Russell version as well. Some of the testing was done. That project I referred to where the speed up was about tenfold, that was actually a Hampson-Russell project even. Yeah, so yeah, Hampson-Russell users can benefit as well.
Yeah, fantastic. Ruth, I have one for you here, and this question, they say they're curious to know about what are the new changes in the machine learning product GeoAI?
Oh, absolutely, great question. So for those of you that don't know about GeoAI, it's one of our newer products in Hampson-Russell, which is a rock physics-based machine learning. So it's guided and informed by rock physics. And we're developing two branches. One would be where the user can make use of extensive rock physics through our rock physics module called Rock SI. and use many different models and write their own models, or a more simplified a branch where we would where the user would output elastic properties or use our pre-inbuilt sand shale model. And so with this enhanced ability to handle more rock physics, we've also enabled the handling of CCUS projects, which we have one ongoing right now. We've also enabled a simplified workflow where if you have good quality wells, maybe you're on land and you've got many wells and you know which are good quality, you can run directly from the well. So we're enabling both ways, for greater variability and support for different types of projects.
Very nice. Thank you. So there's a question here for you, Beth, that says, I was excited to hear about the improved ability to manage the run map and XY map files. The need for this, however, usually arises from problems loading SegY data, they say. Has there been any consideration to improving the SegY loader so that the users don't have problems that they then need to correct?
Yes, actually, that's something that internally we realized too. We are in the process. We have made an improvement to fix something at the same time that we're actually, or to mitigate something that happens at the same time that we are also making improvements to reduce the likelihood that it happens. So our SegY loader has been one of our older pieces of technology. It's something we had not done a lot of changes or improvements to. After all, SegY isn't really changing. So other than adding, support for gather as Muthal data or whatever over the years, we haven't really done anything to it. However, what we found was that it is very easy to choose the wrong coordinates, create a new survey, this kind of thing. And so when we were looking at how that happens, when we wanted to improve the turnaround time over all of your workflow, that area was something that instead of just improving the correction of it, we decided that we could actually improve it as well by making it harder to, or easier to use, easier to correct, choose the correct coordinates and survey information, therefore making it harder to mess up your survey and your coordinates. So now in the new SegY loader that we're going to be releasing probably near the end of the year, with that, there is actually even a map preview. So as you choose the different columns in the SegY, you can look at it and see immediate feedback as to what that survey is going to look like, how it'll relate to other surveys you might have loaded in the project and that kind of thing. So again, hopefully helping to make it less likely that you need to use the new feature for restoring the run.map and xy.map.
Excellent. Thank you, Beth. One here back over to you, Ruth. What improvements has the Hampson Russell team made to the GeoSoftware Petrel plugin?
Great. So I did discuss earlier in the presentation that we've enabled this live link, but additionally, we've also enabled zonation. So let's say you have a very, very large seismic file and you'd like to just sort of import right around a number of different wells in order to do your well tie workflow. We've enabled that capability, as well as importing with decimation of the survey. And then again, there's this live link, which enables you to do all of your favorite workflows without the burden of the import-export. So it's, basically bringing up your seismic real time directly from the Petrel directory.
Okay, great. Looks like, we have another question here for you, Ruth, and that is, what new functionality for interpretation in Hampson Russell is there, such as for lithology interpretation using the inversion results?
Okay. Well, we've added classification to GeoAI, so that's something I didn't mention. So again, GeoAI is our rock physics-based CNN workflow. So the CNN portion enables you to do classification, so thereby create lithology volumes. We do have a push recently to convert our users of Strata to using LithoSI. So in order to, maybe you have older volumes of inversion results, and we'd really like you to upgrade and see the results of lithology predictions along with confident or in those lithologies. So what is the probability of estimating those lithologies? So that is available in LithoSI. So perhaps that was what the user was asking about.
Yep, thanks. Yep, that's good to know. 2 products there that can help. So back over to you, Beth. There's a question here that says, my question is about the depth below mudline feature that was just released last year. Is it possible to use this depth for calculations?
Yes, actually, that's fundamentally why it was put in, was for allowing people to easily calculate trends for that are measured from, or that when the trends are below mudline and not from overall depth. This is particularly the case when you have a lot of structure in offshore. So people recognize it and know about it often because it's in the viewers, that in the viewers, it's now one of the vertical axes choices, along with measured depth, true vertical depth, and time. You have the option for depth below mudline. But the functionality or that feature, that option is available actually in function mod as well. So when you go to make the assignment, you can choose to use the depth below mudline, and then your calculations will use that in there as well. It's a little bit hidden, but it is there.
Great. So we have time for one more question for each of you. So Ruth, there's a question for you that says, have there been any recent changes that affect inversion workflows?
Absolutely. So in a couple places. So as I mentioned, well, I mean, that's sort of a broad question, right? So one place is in our low frequency modeling. So in Strata, we now have the option to make more advanced low frequency models using faults, which has been a major request from our users for a while. So it's going to enhance your reliability of those results at the faults. Additionally, inversion can be accomplished through our GeoA module using a different method, which would be a convolutional neural network, going to produce, say, results that are similar to Strata, but which maybe contain higher detail and are informed by rock physics, so have the potential there to be informed by more data to achieve those higher detailed results. And then additionally, our users are using, are having to handle larger and larger seismic files, say even 5 terabytes of files. Beth mentioned MMP, which can also be used in Hampson-Russell. And so what that process does is break a larger seismic file into chunks and runs each of those at the same time, enabling a much faster turnaround time. So, and that can be run on a local cluster. It can be run locally on the machine, on a cluster or locally on the machine, and it really improves runtime in general. So those are just a few places where we've made enhancements to our inversion workflows.
Great, thank you, Ruth. And then the last question for you, Beth, is kind of a fun one, but this question is asking, what is the JSON development team working on that you are most excited about?
Oh, wow. That's an interesting one. We're working on a lot. So what am I most excited about? Well, I can think of actually 2 things that we're working on. And it's about the developments as well as the process. So under GeoSoftware, we're using a process that we call initiatives. And it is about when you're developing new features and new modules and this kind of thing, working directly with the clients. So the clients can actually be involved in steering the direction of the module, how it fits in the workflow and this kind of thing. So there's two that we are working on that we're about to start working with clients on right away. The first is a new pore pressure prediction module that one client we have is already evaluating it and providing us feedback on that as to what improvements would need to be made to turn this into a full commercial module. So that's the pore pressure prediction. And then there's another one that we're about to start with a client on is for exporting to ResQML. So StatMod and RockMod results right now, to get them out of JSON, you either have to have already had a Petrel grid that you brought in and built the grid, the inversion grid from that Petrel grid, or you had to resample them so as to be able to output them in SegWi format. But neither of those were really ideal, particularly exporting to SegWi. Resampling it, you lost your layer information and your connectivity information. So we looked at how could we allow people to put things out that in a more geologic context, to preserve that layer information and the connectivity. And we chose ResQML. For those of you who don't know about ResQML, that is an industry standard, and that many geologic modeling, flow simulation softwares, those kind of things, they will read and write that format. And so we now have a proof of concept that we are, like I said, getting ready to start working with a client to test it on their data set, that they would take their RockMod results and export them through ResQML and then take them into their geologic modeling package for further work. So I mentioned ResQML is a standard. It's one of the things that, one of the standards that's being adopted by OSDU. And OSDU is another of the initiatives that we are working on. And this is actually something like with the Earth model that is joint across Hampson-Russell and JSON, is we are working on OSDU connectivity. We've had for a little while a proof of concept showing the read functionality. We've now completed the write functionality for being able to write well data to OSDU. And so with that, we're ready to start approaching clients. So like I said, all of these developments I think are really exciting and are going to move our software forward into the future. But I'm also really excited about it because I like the idea of that we are interacting more with the clients, and the clients are helping to guide us with how that should go. Monica at the beginning mentioned about the decades of experience. Well, unfortunately, during those decades, I've had some experiences where we have developed things and the clients then went, that's kind of nice, but it's not exactly what I needed. It doesn't quite mesh with my workflow over here. With this process, it allows us, or it encourages us, has us working with the clients as the development is ongoing, so that we can make it fit exactly what the client wants and have it meet their needs. And I like very much that opportunity to interact with the clients and to make sure that the software is doing exactly what they need it to do to exactly solve their problems, and not just what we kind of guessed their problems are.
Yeah, certainly. I'm definitely seeing a trend of user-driven type development and functionality. So I think that is really important as we move forward.
Yeah, that's something we're definitely doing more of under GeoSoftware, is trying to react directly to the clients. You can see that actually in our quarterly releases, in that as bug reports come in, we're able to fix the client reports very quickly and get those back. And pretty well all of the features and things that I mentioned today, those are triggered. I talked about the workflow time and the performance and that kind of thing, but they were very much triggered with discussions with clients and where clients had observed these things.
Great. Well, thank you both so much, Ruth and Beth, for your very valuable insight and completing this live Q&A panel. So with that, we are out of time. So I am going to wrap up here and just give you a few slides to close on. Make sure you visit our website. We actually just released a new website, and there's a lot of good material out there for you. And if you are a client, you do have access to our knowledge base, where we have lots of materials, presentations, articles for you to read and do research there. And then also, if you need to contact one of us, I have our email addresses here. And as a reminder, I will be sending email after this with a link to the video recording, so you can watch this back if necessary. So with that, that is everything. Again, thank you both so much, and thank you everyone for joining us. And that is the end of today's live Q&A panel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.